Welcome to Virtuous Society. I'm your host, Itamar, here to learn from experts and great minds about all things community and beyond. Today, in this special 10th episode of the show, I'm taking a page out of Chris Williamson's book, The Host of Modern Wisdom, and turning the mic on myself. This episode is all about reflection, mainly unpacking the why behind this show, but also how it's going and where we're headed next, from both a Game 7 perspective and also from a Virtuous Society perspective. I hope you enjoy. Thank you very much. Hey everyone. So today we don't have a guest, and that's by design. We will have a sit down between 30 to 45 minutes. We'll see how long it's going to this episode is going to be, and we're going to discuss mainly about what and the why of this show. Like, why are we doing it? Why am I doing it? How it correlates to the future of what we're trying to build in Game 7, and what are my future plans for this platform. So I'm going to do this type of episodes from time to time. We will have roundups, like pretty much roundups of certain chunks of episodes. We will have Q&As in the future as well, and we will also have some sit-downs like we have today. This probably made more sense as the first episode, but given the nature of creating content and long-form content, I rather just produce some episodes before I'm doing this, because I think that now, once we have an idea of how an episode of Virtual Society looks like, I can speak to my vision of it and to the current state of it now, which I think would have been very difficult to do before we recorded any episodes. So this is for you, the 10th episodes, the 10th episode, but we have recorded a few more as well. So let's just jump into it. So why am I doing this show? I think that the main reason that I've built this platform is in order to learn and grow, not necessarily as just a leader in like Web3 games or as a community leader, but as a community member more than anything. And that's what I think is the value of the show. It's unpacking what the individual has to offer to the community and why service is the most important thing for the individual, but also for the company, for the DAO, for the game, whatever it is, for the community. So I wanted to create a resource that I would personally benefit from. So a platform where I could explore topics that I'm passionate about with people that I consider to be experts, and also try my best to get the best insights out of them. And I think that recording this show also helps me take this journey with other people as well, so servicing other people as well along the way, but also keeps me accountable, gives me more of an opportunity to reach out to people that have even more expertise and more knowledge, because there is something in here for them as well. So it's selfish, which I think is a good thing. I think that every good thing that you build from a selfish perspective, because you want it to exist, has a better chance to succeed. Not necessarily just because you will continue on. So if you really want the thing to exist, you're not necessarily looking at the metrics, you won't necessarily be burnt out, you won't necessarily be discouraged if things doesn't go your way. You're doing it for you. You're doing it for the thing in itself. But also because I think that's the best way to get the best insights. Because I'm really intrigued with what the guests have to offer. I really want to pick their brains. And I think that the best episodes are the one that I'm feeling the most comfortable in, and that I have and I have the best idea of what I want the episode to be like, and I have a better understanding of the expertise of the guest. And I think that's helping to get better pieces of content out there. And from the first 9 or so episodes that you've seen thus far, there's obviously improvements from the first episode to the 9th, but there is also a lot of room to grow. This is my first time doing content in English, which is very challenging from my perspective because I'm used to talking fast. I do talk fast in English as well. I talk even faster in Hebrew. But the translation piece, like everything that I'm saying, I'm thinking about in a different language, and then I need to translate it. And that's a skill that is weird to pretty much build, because I'm very used to being quick. And at times I'm not as quick as I would want to be. So that's improving, which is a good thing. So I presume that by the 100th episode or the 1000th episode, it wouldn't necessarily be an issue. But right now I'm working on it. And there's obviously like the design stuff, like a blank white background isn't the best thing, but we're working on it. So in terms of community building, so I'm very invested in understanding how communities work, especially in Web3, obviously, because that ties down to my role as head of Game 7, but also it helps me to share insights of how to build and sustain and participate in communities, not just from a Game 7 perspective, not just from a Web3 gaming perspective, but a broader context, which I think that the first nine or so episodes have been more on the tactical side, more on the strategy side, less on the philosophical side, which is fine. But I do want to incorporate more guests that are, I would say, that are more experts in terms of the high level philosophy of communities, not necessarily operators in a specific space. But I think that will happen only, I would say, in a year from now, because I think that right now it's very much focused on understanding communities from a Web3 gaming context. But I do try, and I think that I've done a better job in incorporating those type of questions to the people who are operating in the space, because that's very interesting to pretty much mix the two. The other thing that we didn't necessarily talk about is who am I? So I'll give like a quick background in terms of my resume and the things that I think are important for this show. So I have a background in marketing and sales. I've worked pretty much in every position in marketing and sales over the past decade or so. Started my bachelor's in tech marketing and had my first marketing agency out of college, which was underwhelmingly successful. So I had a few clients, nothing too big, but it did lay the groundwork for me from the understanding of branding, strategy, communications. I worked under a few fairly successful, I would say, operators, the main one being the late Jason Brazilai, which I've worked for about 6 to 8 months for a very low pay, but I got a lot out of the out of the experience. During my college time, I also bartended. I waited tables. I just grinded. I fit that definition pretty well. In terms of communities, I've built several communities before, but the one that sticks out is my Fantasy Premier League community. That pretty much is the reason that I'm so heavily invested in communities. I founded it in pretty much like 5 to 6 years ago. Started off as a podcast, started off as a show with a friend of mine, and grew in 2 years to be the biggest fantasy sports community in Israel, which we are very proud of. And I think that was how I learned everything I know about communities, really. Like it wasn't formal education at all. It was just me doing the thing. And that's something that I'm very proud of, because right now it's just going without me, which is great to see, because we've built something and now it's there, and that's something I'm very proud of. So in terms of Web3 games, I've founded an on-chain game called Atomic 8. We worked on that one for about 18 months until it crashed and burned horribly, unfortunately, but I think that's the way of everyone's journey in a way. You need a graveyard of failures behind you. It's something that's fairly common, I would say, to anyone successful, so I'm not too salty about it. At the peak, I led a team of 7 people. I was the CEO of the company, and now, obviously, I'm the head of community for Game 7. You might know that. If you don't know that, that's amazing, because that means that this show is now beyond Game 7, which is great. So if you're tuning in and you didn't know that, that's a very good thing for us. So what's the obsession with communities? Because I think that I'm very interested in the concept, and I think it's very, and I think communities as a whole is something that people think of very differently. Like for some people, community just means their own, like their football team or whatever, their local football team, which they are playing 5-a-side with every Sunday. For some people, it's like it's almost a marketing / research thing. Like you're researching a project and you're looking at the community, and you're looking at it in a very dry view of how many members on the Discord, how active are they, and that's it. I think that at the core, I believe that humans are just wired for connection. I'm very interested in history, and we've all evolved in small, very tight-knit communities, and a sense of belonging to a community is something that I think is a necessity. Like, it's crucial for someone's health, like the mental health, which affects, in my opinion, the physical health greatly. And in today's world, where we have pretty much a loneliness epidemic, and isolation is almost celebrated in a way, communities for me offer the solution. So it's a place where people can find support, can find purpose, can find connection. And I think that it all starts from one thing, but then the community turns into a community. Like, it starts with an audience, it starts with a user base, but then it turns into a community once the connections are happening. And I think it's on us, if we're looking at it from a Game 7 perspective, to make sure the opportunity for those connections is happening. That's why we're so big on IRL events and that type of stuff, which aren't necessarily like a great marketing expense, because it's very difficult to measure how deep the connection between the people who attended is now. Like, it's very ambiguous, but that's something that's very important for us, because we want the Game 7 community, and I want that every community that I'm taking, that I'm participating in, to feel like a safe place, to feel like someone where you can find actual people to actually connect with, and not just necessarily talk about this drop or this quest, but also talk about like real stuff. Because if you're in the Game 7 Discord, you already know that you're interested in Web3 and you're interested in games. I'm very interested in Muay Thai. I'm very interested in football. I bet that out of the 41,000, actually no, but out of the 41,000 and something people currently, maybe when you're listening to this, there are more. Out of those, we have at least 5 to 10 people who share the same interests. And getting to know them and being brave enough in order to put myself out there and make those connections is something that I think is important. And I think that we have a role to play in this in order to facilitate it to be easier for everyone, because it's difficult. It's difficult to get to know people on a deeper level. And I think that's kind of why I'm obsessed with communities. In terms of Web3 specifically, I think Web3 just have a very good, I would say, groundwork to build great communities on top of, because the entire philosophy, the entire ethos is collaborative. Like it's all about open source, it's all about the blockchain where everything is open, you can see everything, you can fork this, you can take this guy's work and make it your own, and everyone are working to build together. It's super communal. So it's not just a buzzword, it's not just, hey, we got a community, it's kind of the foundation of everything in Web3 projects. So I would say, unlike traditional spaces where communities is just like an after effect almost. So Nike produced shoes and then the sneaker community came to be. It wasn't necessarily planned, it just happened because there was enough interest around their sneakers that a community formed around that thing specifically. It wasn't necessarily planned for it. And I think that Web3 is building stuff with that in mind, which is very different. And that kind of aligns my belief that communities can be transformative, which I'm not referring to necessarily just individuals, but also entire ecosystems. Because I think that the entire approach and the entire philosophy is something that I very much enjoy. Like I very much enjoy working in this space way more than any other space that I've been a part of. So there's obviously I want this show and I want the Game 7 community to have some sort of impact. So building and nurturing communities allows us to make something that is lasting. So something that you contributed to, and then kind of left behind to be its own thing. And it continues to just drive value to other people, which is what happened with -4. And that's kind of it's part of my vision for this show and for the community. Like I already mentioned it, I can't see myself burning out doing this show, because that's something that I'm very interested about. I'm very interested in communities as a whole, but also I think you can unpack it and you can have very different conversations also with the same guest in a way that I can't really see myself not enjoying the recording piece of the episode. I might not enjoy the scheduling piece or the preparation piece. That could be sometimes a bit annoying and a bit challenging. But in terms of conducting the show, I can't see myself not having fun recording and conversing with guests about these topics. So I think this gives this show a good chance to have some impact, because that means that I could work very hard on it. And I think that's important. So I would say that in terms of my own journey, I have struggled a bit with loneliness myself. I have struggled a bit with mental health myself. And I think I fit the definition of struggling with food addiction. Believe it or not, I once weighed 120 kg. Isn't the case now, and the fact that I'm 5'9" could paint you a small picture of just how big I was. That was, I think, like 10 years ago now, and probably fit the definition of ADHD. I'm not too sure, but from what I've heard, at least, very much fits the description. But I think it's also a bit of a superpower, because I'm very good in obsessing about things that I'm interested in and not doing anything that I really just don't want. Which that's why I kind of consider the ADHD as a feature, not necessarily a bug. So I think the support that I've found in my close group of friends, with my family, with my Muay Thai gym, with my community at work, and I think that's kind of that's, at least from my perspective, that's the evolution of communities. We I would say for hundreds of thousands of years, we pretty much had like our one community, if we're talking about hunter-gatherer times, where you had your one community and that's it. You would walk around and travel pretty much from spot to spot, but you had your 50 to 100 people that you traveled with, that was your tribe. That evolved into us having our church or synagogue or mosque. Like we have the community there, the religious community, and we have the family community, which is getting smaller and smaller, unfortunately, which I think is also a bit of a shame, because I think it needs to be as big as possible. Humans need other humans. And I think that right now we're living in a time where one community isn't enough. Like you need to be part of a few, of several communities where you also serve in different positions. You can be the head of community for one community, but you can also, and you probably should be, just a member of a different community, and just be in all of the different realms of communities in order to get everything you need, because I think that's the modern way to go about it. And I would say that the communities that I've been a part of have been a tremendous help to myself, and I feel almost an obligation to explore it and to pay it forward and to create spaces where others can experience the same sense of belonging, the same support that I needed and I got at times that were difficult for me. So I want to create that opportunity for other people, which is difficult to do in both in person, but also even more so online. But that's kind of I would say, the ethos behind both this show, but also what we're trying to build for the Game 7 from a community perspective. And that's the part that maybe excites me the most, because I have a team that enables me to experiment with that type of stuff. And we also have, I believe, a very good idea on how to build it. It will take a lot of time and it will take a lot of effort, but I think we have a good idea, and I think that with the team that we've got and with everyone being aligned, I think we have a decent chance to do something great. So in terms of the vision for the future, I see communities, as I said, as pretty much the answer or the cure to many challenges that we are facing today. So I'm very much excited to see what we can build and how resilient the community that we are building could be, because I think it has a chance to become very impactful. And I think there are now a few examples of communities that in the Web3 gaming space that have done some amazing things. Like we had some guests on the show that flat out said, we wouldn't have survived without the community. That's insane. Like that's crazy. And I think that's the human superpower, because it's not really about language. It's more about cooperation. Like that's the thing that humans are doing better than any other species out there. So when you cooperate to something good in order to create something that is it's a good driving force in the world, that's always a beautiful thing. So in terms of the first 9 episodes that are now out, I think I'm happy and I'm satisfied with the progress, especially in terms of just the content, the guests, and the way that I've conducted myself. Also, if you want to humble yourself, record a podcast specifically in a different language. That will be even better, and watch yourself back. That's you would feel very humble, like you would feel extremely cringed out for. I think it was like 5 hours of me just cringing out of every fiber of my being, but I think that's a given. So I am happy with the progress that was made, because I think the first episode compared to the 9th, I'm way more comfortable, and I think the conversations are better, which is good, which also means that I'll need to bring Bryce back specifically to to be more involved in the conversation. He kind of carried that one. So we have a few guests that I already want to bring in for another round, but there's always room for improvement. And when we started the show, the idea was pretty much like, let's see where we're at in episode like 50 and then episode 100. That's kind of like, let's see where we're at a year from now and 2 years from now, because it's a long game. And I've played it before. Like I've built the show before that was somewhat successful. Like for its field, it was very successful, which I was happy about, but now I'm exploring something that is completely different. And I wanted this show to start with the objective of me understanding better Web3 gaming communities and then expanding to understand communities in a broader context as well. And obviously a lot of the conversations were tactical, which is fine, and were strategic, which is also fine, but I want to have more philosophical conversations as well. And I want to explore the ideas further, because that's something that I'm also very much interested in. And I think the show, the show should reflect what the host enjoys talking about and is interested in, because I think that's the best way to create content, because it's very much, even though we're talking about communities, we're talking about business, it's still a form of art in my perspective. And conducting a conversation that flows, and to be able to get the best insights out of someone and to shed the best light you can on him is almost like a dance. And that's what I'm trying to improve on. And I think the best way to improve on that type of stuff is just simply do it and do it more and reflect on the work that you've done. So listen back to it and watch it back, even though it's cringy and even though it's uncomfortable, and try to improve from that. And that's what I'm doing, but we're very much in the start of the journey. In terms of what you guys should and girls should expect going forward. So I would say it will be a blend for the for the next 40 episodes at least. It will be a blend of strategic and technical insights, and I'll just sprinkle on some philosophical discussions about communities and about possibly other stuff, with guests that I feel can speak to it in a way that I think will be valuable for us. And I'll just continue on to bring more people and to bring more diverse guests in order to just explore what we can and can do. And there will be some episodes that will be not so great, and that's okay. And there will be episodes that will be amazing, and we will try to do more of those. And I very much hope that you will help us differentiate between the two by liking the episodes that you do like. So that's what I'm hoping for. And the third thing is accountability. So I'll keep myself accountable to the show, unless there is like a huge mess or something that we didn't plan for. This show should always be posted on the same day, kind of on the same hour, not necessarily the same day and the same hour, because we are experimenting now with some days and hours, but an episode a week should be there every week. And we're working hard to make that happen. And right now, thus far, we're doing a good job. In terms of, and that's maybe the most interesting part of this conversation to me, and that's the vision for Game 7 as a community. Because this show serves me as a tool to get like more insights and to understand better the things that I'm doing myself, and to understand better the ideas and to understand better the philosophy. But Game 7 is the implementation of where we take those insights and actually implement them into something that is now real. And I think that what you can expect out of Game 7, because that's something that we talked about during the first episodes of the show, is pretty much being a community first. So Game 7 is a DAO, and what does a DAO mean, really? And what's the vision for Game 7 as a DAO? So decentralized autonomous organization is a very it's a loaded term. What does it mean in practice? It actually means automation of the company. That's it, really. Instead of having 1,000 people in the company and everyone are employees and doing their whatever, we're decentralizing and we're externalizing a lot of the responsibilities and a lot of the tasks. And the vision for that is to create an environment where people can contribute meaningfully, whether they just want to game or they actually want to work and contribute even more or just hang out. And the vision in this is to give members freedom to work on their terms. So contribute to a project, own a piece of what you're building, and then walk away. Naval Ravikant was talking about it for a while, and he still does talk about it, because we see it already happening in two different aspects. You have services like Fiverr, for example, where you can pretty much have a small contract, work on a logo or something for someone, you get paid, you walk away, and that's it. The difficult piece with that one is that you're just like renting your time. You're not necessarily owning the thing. You don't necessarily get something you're not necessarily owning a piece of what you contributed to. And the other thing that we are doing, which is pretty much the best example of, is Hollywood. And the music industry, where people are getting together, making a movie, and then owning a piece of that movie at times, not always, but at times. So you have a screenwriter, you will have a director, you will have a producer, you will have actors. They will get together, they will work on something for 6 months, 9 months, 3 months, maybe, if it's something small, and then walk away for a year or for 6 months, and then come back and take another work and take another job. And this model isn't like, it's something that we want to mimic in a way in Game 7, because that's from my perspective, the future of work. And we have alluded to a few times, and we already have some opportunities existing that are either recurring or one-off, where you can contribute to something, get your reward, and walk away. And that's something that we want to expand on a lot. And that's hopefully something that we will see more and more of as time passes, because we have a lot of plans in that regard. And obviously now, when it's out there, UGC campaigns is the best example of it. Like, we gave people the opportunity to apply, and now obviously we're even doing more because we have the content creator program. So the people who created the best content not only got rewarded for that content, but now we're actually working with them in order to improve their skills, because we're seeing the potential in them. And there is nothing more sad than untapped potential. I think that's the saying. It's a saying. Like, it's not my words, and I very much agree there. And I think that us providing that stage for people to shine on is something that is very important for us, not just because it's the right thing to do, but also because this model it's just better. It's getting the best work out of people by serving their needs and empowering them. You will work better if you will work for yourself. It's no questions asked. And if you're owning a piece of the thing that you are contributing to, you are more willing to do your best work, because now you have skin in the game. And that's pretty much the fundamentals behind those ideas. So beyond the professional, and the gaming aspects, Game 7, we're trying to build something real. We're trying to build lasting relationships. That's why we have more emphasis on moving things to IRL, because I think there's a lot of online communities are great, but I think meeting someone in real life, if it's possible, obviously it's not possible with everyone. That's the the shorter end of the stick, because we have way more reach. Like we can reach out to way more people, but on a much on a surface level. Like we can't go as deep as we would like with everyone, because if someone is living at the other end of the world, it's very difficult to meet. But the people that are close to each other, we want to make sure that they have the opportunity to connect. And the long-term goal is to just expand on this model. So we want to make Game 7 like a true DAO, really. That's the I would say the best definition that I could give. And I think that we're heading in a very good way. Like I think that we've made a lot of progress in the last year, which I'm very excited about, because I know that we have more in the works, and I know it's only going to get better. And I'm already very happy with what we're doing. So that's exciting to me. So I'm not sure even how long we've been going, but I think that's enough. So this episode was a bit different from others. I think I've talked more now than probably in almost all of the other episodes. So you got to know a bit more of how I'm thinking of things as well, which is probably important. And I would say this episode was just a more introspective look at the journey so far and where we're heading. So as I continue to build this show, as we continue to build the Game 7 community, I hope that we can inspire you to be brave in your own way. And when what I mean by being brave is to reach out and to and to connect with people in a deeper level, because I would say that's the scariest thing. And we can always facilitate the opportunities, and I think we can do even a better job in doing so, but it will never work unless someone makes the move. So unless someone reaches out, unless someone invites someone to, let's take this relationship beyond just talking on the general chat about drops. Let's play a game together. Let's do something together. Let's hang around in this IRL meetup that Game 7 is now conducting. That's what we want. And we want everyone to participate. And hopefully that way we can build something that is really, really, really strong. Because I know for a fact, with my other communities, the moment you're taking things offline, those are friends for life. It completely changes everything. Like once you meet them once or twice or whatever, the relationship is completely different. And I think that's worth it. And I think it's scary for everyone at first, but I think it's very much worth it. So as always, I would encourage all of you to like this episode if you did liked it. If you haven't joined Game 7 yet, join us. And I think the next one will be an episode where we will come back to a regular conversation. I'm pretty sure, I won't spill the beans, but we have a great show coming on next week. And I hope you like this one because it is a bit different. And thank you very much, and we'll catch you on the next one.